Let's begin with the revision of chapter number 1, Strategic Cost Management. For a business to be successful, it needs to have an edge over others. The ultimate objective of a business is to earn better profits and create value for the stakeholders. Strategic cost management is the application of certain management techniques so that the strategic position of a business as well as its costs can be controlled. The basic aim of strategic cost management is to help the organization to achieve sustainable competitive advantage through product differentiation and cost leadership. Strategic cost management can be referred as the managerial use of cost information explicitly directed at one or more of the 4 stages of strategic management, which is formulating the strategies, communicating those strategies, developing and carrying out tactics to implement the strategies, and the fourth one is developing and implementing controls to monitor the success of these objectives. This strategic cost management involves 3 business themes. First, strategic positioning analysis. Second, the cost driver analysis. And the third is value chain analysis. Let's revise them a bit more. First, strategic positioning analysis. Strategic positioning analysis is basically a company's relative position within its industry. And this strategic position is affected by certain factors. Those factors being organization values, internal environment, and external environment. The organization values and the internal environment is much within the control of the entity, while the external environment can be analyzed using models like Pestel and Porter's 5 forces. Moving on to the second type of analysis, that is cost driver analysis. Now, this cost is not just a simple function of volume or output. It is derived by certain factors, and these factors are called as cost drivers. And these cost drivers are broadly of 2 types. First, structural cost drivers, and second, executional cost drivers. The structural cost drivers are the organizational factors which affect the costs of a firm's product. These structural cost drivers depend upon the scale and scope of the operations, the technologies and the complexity of the operations, the experience or the learning curve of the firm. On the other hand, executional cost drivers are based on the firm's operational decisions on how various resources are employed to achieve the goals and objectives. Certain examples of this can be the participation of workforce towards continuous improvement, the importance of total quality management, and the efficiency of plant layout. Moving on to the third analysis, the value chain analysis. The value chain analysis is a process by which firm identifies and analyzes various activities that add value to the final product. Also, the other activities which do not add value to the final product can be eliminated. Now, what exactly is this value chain? As described by Porter, internal processes or activities of a company which it performs to design, produce, market, deliver, and support its product is called the value chain. There are primarily 2 activities, the primary activities and the secondary activities. The primary activity includes inbound logistics, operations, outbound logistics, marketing and sales, and service. While the secondary activities include procurement, technology development, HR management, and the firm infrastructure. Describing each one of them in detail, inbound logistics are the activities concerned with receiving, storing, distributing the inputs to the production process. Operations are the activities involving transforming these inputs into final product. The outbound logistics are the activities involving collecting, storing, distributing the products from the factory line to the end customers. Marketing and sales provide the means by which customers are made aware of the product. And finally, the service includes the activities related to the after sales like installation, repair, replacement, etc. To support these, we have secondary activities which are also alternatively called as support activities, which is first procurement. Now, procurement involves purchasing of raw material. the supplies, the consumables which are required as inputs in the inbound logistics. Further, technological development. Technological development includes technical knowledge, equipment, hardware, software, or any other kind of knowledge which will help to convert these inputs into outputs. Also, third thing, human resource management. It includes selection, recruitment, training, appraisal of employees. And fourth, the firm infrastructure. It consists of the activities such as financing, accounting, legal, government affairs, and quality management. Now, the question is, how is this value chain analysis implemented? The value chain analysis requires internal as well as external information, and this information needs to be organized. And this organization is possible because of a strategic framework for value chain analysis, and this framework includes three types of analysis. First, industry structure analysis, second, core competency analysis, and the third is segmentation analysis. Now let's recall these three analyses. First, industry structure analysis, which is also called as the Porter's 5 force analysis. अब इसके पहले जब हम स्ट्रैटेजिक पोजिशनिंग एनालिसिस पढ़ रहे थे तब भी हमने ये देखा था कि एक्सटर्नल एनवायरनमेंट को एनालाइज करने के लिए पोर्टर्स 5 फोर्स मॉडल यूज होता है. And this model basically determines the profit potential of the firms in the industry. There are basically 5 major factors that influence the profitability of a business as per Michael Porter. And those are the bargaining power of the buyers, the bargaining power of the suppliers, threat of substitute products or services, threats of new entrants, and the intensity of competition or the rivalry among the firms. Now, describing these forces concisely, the bargaining power of the buyers determines the ability of buyer to push down the price. A higher bargaining power results in lower profitability. The second is bargaining power of the suppliers. The bargaining power of suppliers is relatively higher when the input is important. And hence, the profitability of the company can shrink if the suppliers have a higher bargaining power. The third one is threats of substitute products or services. When there are multiple or close substitutes which are available in the market for a product, customers are likely to switch the supplier very easily. Which means that there is a limit to what price customers are willing to pay, which in turn again affects the profitability of the business. The fourth one being the threats of new entrants. It largely depends on barriers to entry and the perceived profitability of an industry. An industry where the threat of new entrants is low is more profitable than an industry where the new entrants can be easily entered. And the fifth one is the intensity of the competition. Some markets are more competitive than the others. In these highly competitive industries, the firms have to resort to a cutthroat competition to win more customers, and hence influencing the profitability of the business. The intensity of this competition depends on whether the firms are more or less of equal size, the extra capacity, the difficulty in differentiation in the products, the exit barriers, and the fixed costs. And hence, these 5 forces help a firm to better understand the industry value chain and its competitive environment. Moving on to the second type of analysis, which is the core competencies analysis. Now, what is core competency? It is a unique skill or a technological know-how that creates distinctive customer value. As we know, कि strategic cost management का basic aim is competitive advantage, and this competitive advantage has a primary source, and this primary source is the core competency of the business. And these core competencies come from 2 main sources, that is the capabilities and the resources. Capabilities refer to the company's ability to coordinate resources and put them to productive use. The availability of resources by themselves does not guarantee core competency and success. The capabilities stem from organizational structure, processes, and the control systems, which, if we remember, was one of the factors that influenced the strategic position. सेकेंडली, ये जो रिसोर्सेज होती है ना, दीज आर द फैक्टर्स दैट इनेबल अ कंपनी टू क्रिएट वैल्यू फॉर द कस्टमर्स. जैसे कि लैंड हो गया, बिल्डिंग, इन्वेंट्री, और द इंटेंजिबल थिंग्स सच एज द स्किल सेट्स ऑफ द एम्प्लॉय, द ब्रांडिंग, द पेटेंट टेक्नोलॉजीज दैट आर यूज्ड. नाउ वी जस्ट डिस्कस्ड कि ये जो को कॉम्पिटेंसीज है ना, दीज आर द प्राइमरी सोर्स ऑफ एन ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस कॉम्पिटिटिव एडवांटेज. तो हम ये कोर कॉम्पिटेंसीज को कॉम्पिटिटिव एडवांटेज में कैसे कन्वर्ट कर सकते हैं? The simple answer to this is by applying the value chain approach. और ये वैल्यू चेन अप्रोच हम कोर कॉम्पिटेंसीज पे अप्लाई करेंगे तो हमें मिलता है कॉम्पिटिटिव एडवांटेज. दैट्स द लिंक. अब इस चीज़ को हम 4 स्टेप्स में करते हैं. फर्स्ट, वैलिडेट कोर कॉम्पिटेंसीज इन द करंट बिजनेस. सेकेंड, लेवरेज कॉम्पिटेंसीज टू द वैल्यू चेन ऑफ द अदर एग्जिस्टिंग बिजनेस. Third, use core competencies to reconfigure the value chains of the existing business. And then the fourth one is use these core competencies to create new value chains. And as you can see on the screen in the diagram that I've made, this can be broken down into simple terms like this. हमारे करंट बिजनेस में जो भी कोर कॉम्पिटेंसीज है ना, सबसे पहले तो उन्हें आइडेंटिफाई करो, उन्हें वैलिडेट करो. फिर देखो कि क्या मैं इस बिजनेस की कोर कॉम्पिटेंसीज को अपने अदर एग्जिस्टिंग बिजनेसेस में लेवरेज कर सकती हूँ क्या, उसमें यूज़ कर सकती हूँ क्या. जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल जो हमारी मॉड्यूल में दिया हुआ है, इफ़ अ बैंक हैज़ वाइड नेटवर्क ऑफ ब्रांचेस, द सेम नेटवर्क कैन बी यूज टू लॉन्च and sell other insurance products. And this is exactly what is called leveraging the competencies to other existing businesses. The third important thing is to use these core competencies to reconfigure the value chains of the existing business. Now, what exactly is this reconfiguration? It is just doing things a bit differently so that the competitors will not exploit our opportunities. And further, चौथी स्टेप ये है कि to use this core competencies to create new value chains, which will help an organization to seek new customers. And then again, overall profitability increase होगी और हमारी पूरी firm के लिए value create होगा. Now the third analysis is the segmentation analysis. अभी एक इंडस्ट्री में ना काफ़ी सारे सेगमेंट्स होते हैं और एक इंडस्ट्री प्रॉफिटेबल है या नहीं है, इसको एनालाइज करने के लिए वी यूज़ दिस सेगमेंटेशन एनालिसिस. बाय यूजिंग दिस वी कैन डिसाइड वेदर वी वांट टू एंटर और एग्जिट, reconfigure one or more segments और embark on the cost reduction या फिर differentiation programs. अब ये segmentation analysis करते कैसे है? It's into 5 stages. The first one is identify the segmentation variables. मतलब segments को identify करो. Second is construct a matrix. Third is analyze the segment attractiveness, which is the best one. And then identify the key success factors for each of the segment. And then the fifth and the final thing is analyze the attractiveness of broad versus the narrow segment का scope. Now summarizing the details of each of these steps. देखो, आइडेंटिफाइंग सेगमेंटेशन वेरिएबल्स क्या होता है कि एक इंडस्ट्री ना काफ़ी सारे मल्टीपल सेगमेंट्स में डिवाइडेड होती है डिपेंडिंग अपॉन द साइज, द नेचर, द कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी ऑफ द इंडस्ट्री. और हम इन सेगमेंट्स को फॉर्म कर सकते हैं ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ द नेचर ऑफ प्रोडक्ट्स, द कस्टमर्स और द जोग्राफीज. द सेकेंड थिंग वॉज टू कंस्ट्रक्ट अ मैट्रिक्स. नाउ व्हाट डज दिस मीन? आफ्टर वी आइडेंटिफाई द सेगमेंट्स, मैट्रिक्स हम बना सकते हैं विच इज़ बेस्ड ऑन नेचर ऑफ प्रोडक्ट्स या जोग्राफी, जैसे अभी हमने बात किया, या फिर ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ प्रोडक्ट डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन चैनल्स जैसे कि होलसेल हो गया, रिटेल या फिर डायरेक्ट. नाउ व्हेन दीज segments are identified and these segments are categorized into matrices, we have to analyze each segment ka attractiveness. That is by evaluating the profitability and performance of each segment. The interrelationship between these each segments must also be considered जब हम लोग ये segmentational attractiveness को analyze कर रहे हैं. The fourth one was to identify key success factors for each segment, which again depends upon the objectives and goals of the firm. It could be on quality of the products, या फिर service, या फिर timeliness of delivery. A single performance measure across all segments is not advisable because there can be different key success factors for different segments. And the fifth one is analyzing the attractiveness of broad versus narrow segment. अब इसका मतलब क्या होता है? See, the company must identify whether it wants to be in a broad segment or a narrow segment. Now this selection depends upon the risk profile. Multiple segments अगर होगी तो we can spread the costs across various segments. The company might also be in a position to use competency of one segment into another. अभी हमने जैसे पढ़ा था leveraging. And the competitive advantage of each segment can be identified in terms of low cost या फिर cost differentiation. And by using these three types of analysis, that is industry structure analysis, segmentation analysis और core competencies analysis, हम लोग value create करते हैं for the business. And this is included in the value chain analysis. और वैल्यू चेन एनालिसिस के साथ साथ जब हम स्ट्रैटेजिक पोजिशनिंग एनालिसिस और कॉस्ट ड्राइवर एनालिसिस करते हैं तो वी गेट स्ट्रैटेजिक कॉस्ट मैनेजमेंट. और जब हमारा स्ट्रैटेजिकली कॉस्ट मैनेज हो जाता है इट गिव्स अस एन कॉम्पिटिटिव एडवांटेज ओवर द अदर बिजनेसेस. और ये सब मिलके हमारे बिजनेस की प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी भी बढ़ाते हैं और हमारे स्टेक होल्डर्स के लिए वैल्यू क्रिएट करते हैं. एंड दिस इज द फुल सर्कल थिंग दैट वी हैड टू लर्न इन दिस चैप्टर. एज वी हैव सीन अर्लियर, if we apply value chain approach on these core competencies, we get competitive advantage. And besides these core competencies, there are distinctive competencies also. और these distinctive competencies can take two forms, जो हमने पहले भी स्टार्टिंग में पढ़ लिया था. What is that? That is product differentiation and cost leadership. तो basically competitive advantage का अगर हम लोग एक इक्वेशन बनाने की कोशिश करें ना अपने माइंड में तो वो ऐसे निकल के आता है कि core competencies plus product differentiation plus cost leadership. This in totality will give you competitive advantage to manage your cost strategically, which will in turn give you increased profitability and will create value for your stakeholders. Now when we talk about the first form, that is differentiation strategy, इसमें तीन बातें होती हैं. एक तो superior quality, superior innovation and superior customer responsiveness. इन तीन components में हम अगर superiority पा लेते हैं तो we are able to apply this differentiation strategy to the best way possible. Basically, this differentiation advantage can be achieved by adopting these three techniques. The superior quality क्या होता है? The customers are offered a better quality product in the similar price range, and the quality of product or services offered is such that the company becomes a preferred choice for its customers. When we talk about superior innovation, it means that the company is continuously offering innovative products ahead of its competition. That again is going to set it apart from the rest of the businesses. And the third one was superior customer responsiveness, which is that the company produces products or provides certain kind of services which are aligned with the customer's expectations. And when the customer expectations are met, it becomes a differentiation strategy. Once a company has successfully differentiated its offering, management may exploit the advantage of this differentiation in two ways. Either it can increase the price until it offsets the cost of improvement in customer benefits, or price below the full premium level in order to build market share. Now the second part was low cost advantage. A firm enjoys a relative cost advantage if उसकी total cost is less than that of its competitors. This relative cost advantage enables a business to do one of the following. क्या हो सकता है? Either charge a lower price than the competitors and gain market share and still maintain the current profitability, या फिर match the prices with the competing products or services and increase the profitability. अब ये दो चीज़ें तो हमने पढ़ ली. First thing was differentiation advantage and then was the low cost advantage. Now how do we identify कि हमारी पूरे बिजनेस में हम कहाँ पे डिफरेंशिएशन ला सकते हैं या कहाँ पे लो कॉस्ट एडवांटेज ला सकते हैं? For this, the value chain analysis can be used. Now when we talk about differentiation advantage, value chain analysis can identify the points at which differentiation advantage can be achieved. And those are producing products which are superior to competitors by its design या फिर उसका know how, they have a different thing, their performance is really premium, या फिर offering superior after sales services by outstanding distribution, expanding the product range, superior packaging, या फिर making a brand strength. And by doing this, the differentiation strategy or the differentiation advantage can be achieved. When we talk about कहाँ कहाँ हम लोग low cost achieve कर सकते हैं, in that case, if we reduce the costs by efficiency, like rather than creating your own designs and putting a lot of effort into that, we can just use an already existing structure. We can use cheaper materials, cheaper resources, reducing labor costs and increasing the productivity. या फिर economies of scale attain करना by high volume sales. Use high volume purchasing to get bulk discount. Locating in areas where cost advantage exists या फिर government support is possible. Gaining learning and experience curve benefits. And with this, we can conclude that the focus on the value chain of the business is very important because it is going to help the firm to identify the areas where it can have an advantage and where it can have a low cost advantage as well through differentiation of its products or services. Now, as we just talked a few minutes back, वो थर्ड स्ट्रैटेजी जो पोर्टर ने निकाली थी, अ फोकस स्ट्रैटेजी, वो क्या होता है? फोकस स्ट्रैटेजी कॉन्सेंट्रेट्स ऑन अ स्पेसिफिक सेगमेंट ऑफ अ प्रोडक्ट लाइन, जैसे कि on a product line or on a geographical market to create a niche. An organization which fails to fully commit to any one of these generic strategies, they are considered as an extremely poor strategic position wali firm in an industry. Now, if we just take a step back and बस सोचे कि हमने अब तक क्या क्या पढ़ा. सबसे पहले इफ़ वी रिमेंबर, हमने कॉम्पिटिटिव एडवांटेज अचीव करने के लिए कोर कॉम्पिटेंसीज यूज़ की थी और अभी जस्ट हमने देखा कि हमने कॉम्पिटिटिव एडवांटेज को हासिल करने के लिए डिस्टिंक्टिव कॉम्पिटेंसीज यूज़ की थी. सो बेसिकली ये एक मेन गोल है हमारा, कॉम्पिटिटिव एडवांटेज. हम लोग इस कॉमन गोल पे पहुंचने के लिए वैल्यू चेन को यूज़ कर रहे हैं और वैल्यू चेन को हम आइदर अपनी कोर कॉम्पिटेंसीज पे अप्लाई कर रहे हैं या फिर अपनी डिस्टिंक्टिव कॉम्पिटेंसीज पे अप्लाई कर रहे हैं. तो बेसिकली अगर हम लोग एक कंक्लूड करने की कोशिश करें तो कॉम्पिटेंसीज का 3 पार्ट ही हो गया. फर्स्ट वन वॉज कोर कॉम्पिटेंसी, सेकेंड वन वॉज प्रोडक्ट डिफरेंशिएशन एंड देन थर्ड बिकेम द कॉस्ट लीडरशिप. हम लोग अपनी वैल्यू चेन को इन 3 चीज़ों पे अप्लाई कर रहे हैं तो हमें क्या मिल रहा है? कॉम्पिटिटिव एडवांटेज मिल रहा है. ये बात तो हमें क्लियर हो गई. बट हमें किसी चीज़ पे वैल्यू चेन अप्लाई करना है या नहीं, उस चीज़ पे वैल्यू चेन अप्लाई करने के बाद हमें कॉम्पिटिटिव एडवांटेज होगा या नहीं, पहले ये भी तो जानना इंपॉर्टेंट है ना. इफ़ वी ऑलरेडी नो दैट समथिंग इज़ गोइंग टू बी डिसएडवांटेजेस तो हम अपनी वैल्यू चेन अप्लाई ही नहीं करेंगे, राइट? So how do we do that? We do it by applying the value chain model. When we have to assess this competitive advantage, whether there is a competitive advantage, पहले हम assess करेंगे ना कि है या नहीं, और जब हमें पता चलेगा कि yes there is a possibility of a competitive advantage, तब हम value chain apply करके we will attain that. तो पहले हमें assess करना ज़रूरी है and then we will attain. तो assess हम किस एरिया में कर सकते हैं? 3 मेजर एरियाज़ हैं, एक्चुअली 3 एरियाज़ है जहाँ पे हम अपना वैल्यू चेन अप्रोच को यूज़ करके आइडेंटिफाई कर सकते हैं कि वहाँ उस एरिया में या उस सेगमेंट में कॉम्पिटिटिव एडवांटेज रहेगा या नहीं. एंड दोज आर 3 थिंग्स. फर्स्ट, इंटरनल कॉस्ट एनालिसिस. सेकेंड, internal differentiation analysis, and the third one is vertical linkage analysis. अगर इसको याद करना है तो ऑब्वियसली हम लोग 2 चीज़ों को तो पहले याद कर ही सकते हैं. कॉस्ट लीडरशिप वाली चीज़ के लिए इंटरनल कॉस्ट एनालिसिस, दैट इज़ सिमिलर. इंटरनल डिफरेंशिएशन एनालिसिस के लिए प्रोडक्ट डिफरेंशिएशन इज़ सिमिलर, एंड वर्टिकल लिंकेज इज़ द थर्ड पार्ट. ऐसे करके हम लोग इसको याद कर सकते हैं. नाउ लेट्स एक्चुअली जस्ट रिवाइज क्विकली कि इन सब में कंपोनेंट्स क्या है, इस सब में अपने को क्या याद रखना है फॉर द पर्पसेस ऑफ एग्जामिनेशन. ओके, So the first one is internal cost analysis. इसमें ना 5 चीज़ें होती हैं, 5 स्टेप्स होते हैं जो हमें कैरी आउट करना होता है टू डू दिस इंटरनल कॉस्ट एनालिसिस. फर्स्ट इज आइडेंटिफाई द फर्म्स वैल्यू क्रिएटिंग प्रोसेस. Remember, we are using this value chain approach. So when we are using this value chain approach, we have to identify the value creating processes. Why? Obviously because जो processes value create नहीं करती है उनको हम eliminate कर सकते हैं. So this first step in which a firm identifies its value creating process. The key here is to classify the activities to understand its true contribution to the firm's competitive advantage. The second step of this internal cost analysis is determining the portion of total cost of the product attributable to the value creating process. हर एक value creating process में जितना cost हो रहा है वो total के proportion में कितना है. If we have to say it in proper language, the next step basically is to trace or assign costs and assets to each value creating process, which is identified in step number 1. The third step is identify the cost drivers for each process. The company has to identify the factors which drive costs. A change in the cost driver leads to a change in overall cost. And hence, the next step of internal cost analysis is to identify the factor or cost determinants for each value creating process. The fourth step is to identify the links between the processes. Interlinking क्या है? The value chain analysis considers individual value activities as separate and discrete. But no function or no activity or no process functions, in separation. Most activities within a value chain are interdependent, and the linkages between these various activities might definitely impact the total cost. And hence, we have to identify the links between these processes. And the fifth and the final step is to evaluate the opportunities for achieving relative cost advantage. Now, there can be certain activities which provide a larger opportunity for reducing the cost, while other activities that costs are incurred at current level, or maybe it could be incurred at higher levels. Using these value chain approach, a company goes beyond simple across the board cuts and attempts to lower the cost and improve the efficiency with each value creating process. To summarize this again within a revision, सबसे पहले हमें आइडेंटिफाई करना है कि फर्म की वैल्यू क्रिएटिंग प्रोसेस क्या है. वैल्यू क्रिएटिंग प्रोसेस को हमने आइडेंटिफाई किया, उसके बाद हमें देखना है कि ईच वैल्यू क्रिएटिंग प्रोसेस की जो कॉस्ट लग रही है उसका प्रपोर्शन क्या है विद रिस्पेक्ट टू द टोटल कॉस्ट. उसके बाद हम देखेंगे कि ये जो कॉस्ट लग रही है किस वजह से लग रही है. दैट इज़ द कॉस्ट ड्राइवर्स फॉर ईच प्रोसेस. क्योंकि कभी कभी क्या होता है, मल्टीपल कॉस्ट ड्राइवर्स provide more useful information in analysis, and the companies which use activity based costing to gain a better understanding are able to manage the costs really efficiently. ये होने के बाद हमें हर एक प्रोसेस के बीच की लिंक आइडेंटिफाई करनी है, and then we have to evaluate the opportunities to achieve this relative cost advantage. So this was all about internal cost analysis using value chain. Moving on to the second part of this, internal differentiation analysis using the value chain. अब इसमें तीन ही चीज़ें हैं. First one is identify the customer's value creating process. It's very similar to the one which we saw in the internal cost analysis. The second is evaluate the differentiation strategies for enhancing the customer value. And the third one is determine the best sustainable differentiation strategies. अब होता क्या है, the company firstly must identify various activities in its value chain which are undertaken to deliver the products or services to the customer. Differentiation comes from the way various activities are performed and the way in which the value chain of the firm is structured. The second step after that comes to evaluation of differentiation strategies. A company seeks to evaluate various strategies which could enhance the customer value. Now, the strategies which a company can implement to enhance these customer values are, for example, superior features of the products, excellent customer service, or offering great quality at competitive prices, having a great brand image, or using effective marketing and distribution channels. And then the last or the third step is the activities which could not enhance the differentiation must be identified, as well as ones which enhance the differentiation must also be identified. And obviously, since we are applying value chain, तो जो चीज़ें value add नहीं कर रही उन्हें eliminate करना है, and we have to identify the strategies which create sustainable product and service differentiation. So this was the second part of our process to assess whether there is a competitive advantage. Now the third part is vertical linkage analysis. Now this is interesting. हम जब अपने cost analysis, internal cost analysis की बात कर रहे थे, we talked about the internal link between two processes. Now there is obviously an internal link between two processes within a firm, in the value chain of the firm, but there is also a linkage between the firm's value chain and that of a supplier or a user. A vertical linkage analysis includes all upstream, downstream activities throughout the industry. The analysis encompasses activities beginning at the source of raw material and ending at the final delivery of the product. Now, what happens sometimes is that a company might not carry out all the activities in the entire value chain of an industry. Hence, it might not be possible to be in a position to obtain information relating to such costs. However, it is very necessary for a vertical linkage analysis. A company must identify the cost drivers for each of the process in the value chain so that it can evaluate the opportunities for sustainable competitive advantage after carrying out this industry value chain. तो हमने पहले इंडस्ट्री वैल्यू चेन एनालिसिस के अंदर सबसे पहले हमने अपना इंटरनल कॉस्ट एनालिसिस किया, इंटरनल डिफरेंशिएशन एनालिसिस किया, वर्टिकली लिंकेज करके देखा with the industry, and then we can come to a conclusion whether there is a competitive advantage. When there is a competitive advantage, we can apply this value chain further to our core competencies or our distinctive competencies like product differentiation or the cost leadership, and then of course we can attain the assessed competitive advantage. And this in totality completes our first big chunk of this chapter, strategic cost management. Now, strategic cost management alone doesn't work on its own. It is heavily influenced by the vision, mission, and objectives of the firm. Now, talking about a company's mission statement, it is a statement of the company's reason to exist. It seeks the answer to the question कि क्यों है ये सब? Why does the company exist? It is a statement of organization purpose and helps in addressing the following questions like what kind of services or the products will you offer, what kind of market you are targeting, what type of customers does the company seek to target, what is the area of operation, the geographies. Whereas a company's vision is what the company would like to achieve. A vision must be challenging and generally states an ambitious future. A good vision statement must motivate the employees and managers to work towards the common organizational goal. The third thing, which is a company's objective. Now, a company's objective is a precise and a measurable future state that the company wants to achieve. The basic aim of this objective statement is to specify what needs to be done to attain the company's mission or vision. Now, the fundamental purpose of strategic planning and management is to align these vision and mission statements. A company's strategy is directed towards achieving the sustained competitive advantage, and hence, strategic cost management is very closely linked to the vision, mission, and objectives of the company. Now, these all things were about product specific, but there are services apart from the products. So there is another concept which is called the service value chain or the value shop model. The concept of this value shop came specifically for the companies in the service sector. This approach is designed to solve customer problems rather than creating value by producing output from an input of raw materials. And as we know that the value chain analysis had Porter's model, so in these value chain, the model has same support activities, but the primary activities are described differently because the basic approach, the basic aim and the reason why this exists is for services and is to solve customer problems rather than creating value of input output of raw material. So the primary activities will include problem finding and acquisition, problem solving, choosing among the solutions, and the fourth will be execution and control evaluation. और इसके ऊपर definitely procurement, technology, HR, infra, this four is going to be support activities. वो तो हमारी जैसे पहले थी वैसे ही रहेंगी. And the management in a value shop focuses on areas like problems, opportunity assessment, resource mobilization, project management, solution delivery, outcome measurement, and learning. And with these topics, which were broadly 3 चीज़ें थी, सबसे पहले तो हमने वैल्यू चेन से कोर कॉम्पिटेंसी पे कैसे जंप करेंगे वो देखा, वो पूरा एक बड़ा सा चंक था. The second was vision, mission और objective statement का link with strategic cost management. And the third one was value shop. And with these 3 big chunks, we finished the first chapter of our SCMPE.